Lecture 7. The Big Five Personality Traits. Many contemporary personality psychologists believe that there are 5 basic dimensions of personality, which are often referred to as the Big Five personality traits. And the Big Five personality traits are, in no particular order, openness to experience, the opposite of which is quite simply closed to experiences; conscientiousness, the opposite of which is simply a lack of conscientiousness; extroversion, the opposite of which is introversion; agreeableness, the opposite of which is disagreeableness; and neuroticism, the opposite of which is emotional stability. And it's been found that the Big Five personality traits are very universal amongst all of us. One study that looked at people from about 50 different cultures found that the 5 dimensions of personality could be accurately used to describe personality for anyone. And many psychologists now believe that the 5 personality traits are not only universal, but that they also have biological origins. For example, psychologist David Buss has proposed an evolutionary explanation for these 5 personality traits, suggesting that these personality traits represent the most important qualities that shape our social landscape. And that's why they're so important and why I wanted to cover them in this course, because it's clearly a huge part of self-awareness. So the question now is, where do you rank on each? Well, let's delve a little deeper to find out. Openness describes a person's tendency to think in abstract, complex ways, and people who are very open to experiences tend to be very creative, adventurous and intellectual types. They enjoy playing with ideas and discovering new experiences and that kind of thing. But what we're going to do anyway for each of the 5 personality traits is to go through the characteristics of somebody that would be high in that personality trait and the characteristics of somebody that would be low in that personality trait. And that will hopefully give you an idea as to where you stand. So whilst we're going through these personality traits, you can start thinking about roughly where you do stand. For example, are you high on that personality trait? Are you low on that personality trait? Or are you somewhere in the middle? So starting with openness to experience, people who are high in this personality trait tend to be highly creative and imaginative, open to trying new things, up for experiencing new challenges, comfortable thinking about abstract concepts, adventurous, and have a wide range of interests. On the contrary, people who are low in openness to experience tend to be unimaginative, don't like trying new things, dislike change, are resistant to new concepts and ideas, do not like abstract concepts or theories, don't like new experiences, and have limited interests. So have a think. Where do you stand? Next up we have conscientiousness. Now this describes a person's ability to be self-disciplined and work hard and have self-control in order to pursue their goals. And people that score high in conscientiousness tend to have the following characteristics. They like to be prepared and organised. They prioritise and ensure things are done by the deadline. They have excellent attention to detail. They like to have plans and schedules for everything. And they work hard towards their goals, resisting immediate gratification to focus on things that will get them longer term results. Whereas those that score low on conscientiousness tend to prefer to wing it or roll with it. They do not prioritise and procrastinate on important things. They have little attention to detail and fail to complete necessary or assigned tasks. They dislike structure and schedules. And they fail to return things or put them back where they belong. Moving on now to extroversion, and we're going to go into more detail on extroversion in a later lecture because I think it's so important. But for now, I'm just going to do what I've been doing before, which is to go through the characteristics of somebody who is high in extroversion, and of course, the characteristics of somebody who is low in extroversion. So starting with high, if somebody is high in extroversion, they tend to enjoy being the centre of attention. They are keen to converse and be sociable. They enjoy meeting new people. They have a network of friends and associates. They make friends with others easily. And they gain energy from being around other people. And they often speak without thinking. People that are low in extroversion, in other words, introverts, dislike being the centre of attention, find it harder to start conversations and dislike small talk. They prefer being on their own in solitude. They have a smaller circle of close friends. They feel exhausted when having to socialise a lot and so gain energy from being on their own. And they carefully think things through before speaking. Next up we have agreeableness. And agreeableness describes a person's tendency to put other people's needs ahead of their own, and they tend to cooperate with other people rather than competing with other people. So people who are high in agreeableness experience a lot of empathy for other people, they get pleasure out of helping, serving and taking care of others, and they're usually quite trusting and forgiving individuals. So people that are high in agreeableness tend to have a great deal of interest in other people. They care about others. They feel empathy and concern for other people. They enjoy helping and contributing to the happiness of other people. And they assist others who are in need of help. Whereas those who are low in agreeableness tend to have little interest in others. They don't care about how other people feel. They have little interest in other people's problems. They insult and belittle others. And they manipulate others to get what they want. And finally we have neuroticism. Neuroticism describes a person's tendency to experience negative emotions, including things like fear, sadness, anxiety, guilt, shame. And of course we all experience negative emotions from time to time, that's perfectly normal and natural. But the fact is some people are more prone to them than others. And so somebody that's high in the personality trait neuroticism will be somebody that tends to experience a lot of stress. They'd worry about many different things. They'd get upset easily. They'd experience dramatic shifts in mood. They'd feel anxious. And they'd struggle to bounce back after stressful events. Someone that's low in the personality trait neuroticism would tend to be described as emotionally stable. They'd deal well with stress. They'd rarely feel sad or depressed. They don't worry much. And they're very relaxed. We're going to finish up lecture 6 now by doing an exercise, and that's going to involve you going online and actually doing a test that's going to assess you for the big 5 personality traits. There's actually many great tests out there online that you can take to get a good feel for where you stand against each of the traits. But I would caution that these should only be used as a guide. In other words, you should still take the time to assess yourself and reflect on where you think you stand against each of the big 5. A couple of recommended websites and links for you are at openpsychometrics.org and 123test.com. And those are the exact links I've put up on the screen there. But to be honest, if you just Google Big 5 personality test, it'll probably come up with all sorts of different ones you can take. So just choose one or two and then just see what the results come out with. But as I said, just use them as a guide. You can still assess yourself. You can look at your results and decide whether you agree with them. If not, why not? And of course, if they support what you already think, then that's good as well. On the right is actually the results from one test that I took, and I have to say it was generally speaking accurate. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it to perfection, but it was more or less accurate. As you can see, O is for openness, C is for conscientiousness, E is for extroversion, A is agreeableness, and N is neuroticism. And I scored 54% for openness, which is probably about right. I'd argue myself it should be a little bit higher, but it came out reasonably high in openness. Conscientiousness scored highly, which I definitely agree with. I'm a very conscientious person. Extroversion I scored relatively low in, which again I'd agree on because I am quite an introverted person. Agreeableness came in at 48%, which again I'd probably say is about right. And neuroticism came in at 8%, which was very low for neuroticism. And again, I'd probably by and large agree with that because I am a very emotionally stable kind of person. So do your own test, see what it comes out with, and I'll see you in the next lecture.